The Devil Blues by I Knew a Man on AO3. Episode 7, Chapter 5, Stakeout. Why'd you choose to stick with me? Izuku tirelessly drags his gaze from where he's sorting through the papers on his desk. It had gotten into such an absolute state that even he's getting muddled up about where everything is. It's probably best if he had folders and binders with tabs to help keep track of his work, but Izuku could never get into that level of organizational skills. He goes about things in a way that makes sense to him, and he's never had any issues before. Technically, there's still no problem with how he chooses to keep his files, but he needs a distraction. The captain's reprimands still weigh heavy on his mind, and sorting through his jumbled excuse of a desk is one way of coping with it. Izuku still can't wrap his head around the fact that he was chastised by his childhood hero, the one of the two constants in his life, the person he's looked up to since he was 8 years old, and he has no one to blame but himself. Well, that's not exactly right. Izuku continues to peer at Bakugo as the man peers right back, face expressionless, yet simultaneously demanding answers. Captain Toshinori gave you an out, the blonde continued. Izuku's already feeling dread from the day's events, and it's not even noon yet. Squaring his shoulders, he turns to face Bakugo with the intention of making his reply. He stops short when he noticed a pair of big, brown eyes peering at them over the desk divider. Brows knit together and frown in place. Izuku chistes. Uraraka, please. I work here too, Izuku. She shoots back, glaze darting between the two of them. Izuku's unable to hold back the sigh that drops from his lips. He's exhausted, but there's still a full day's of work ahead of him. He glances at Bakugo only to find the man pinning him in place with his crimson eyes. They're dark, dangerous, utterly focused, and never fail to cause goosebumps to erupt over Izuku's skin. Clearing his throat, he responds. Even though you might not think it, I actually want you to learn from your time here. I want you to take away valuable experience and life lessons from how we do things at the 78th Precinct, which may differ from how you do things, but ultimately does help our city and citizens. We don't all have fancy quirks like you do, and so we must rely on other skills. Just because you're acting like an asshole doesn't mean I'm going to give up on teaching you about how we go about doing our jobs as police detectives. Dumb decision. Bakugo comments easily. I'm not exactly easy to work with. If I wanted this job to be easy, I would be taking bribes from criminals left, right, and center. Izuku says around a sigh, running a hand through his green curls, tousling them further. But it's not. So I'm gonna do my job, and I'm gonna do it right. A soft silence draped itself over the two men, encasing them in their own bubble separate from the rest of the precinct. The many noises around them still filter through, but their attention is solely on each other. You know what? Bakugo starts, slowly. I'm a little reluctantly impressed with you. Drawing from the latest information that's found its way into Izuku's email box, he decides the best course of action is to go on a stakeout, just like Bakugo suggested. The man is very clearly elated at the prospect, if his grinning is anything to go by. It's sharp, like a predator going in for the kill, and Izuku thinks there's no description more apt that could define the man's smile. He makes sure to debrief Bakugo properly regarding the information he received from his co-workers, and put emphasis on the importance of teamwork. The blonde rolls his eyes during that bit, but Izuku's adamant that Bakugo take away some sort of life lesson from the station cooperation operation. They take Izuku's car, a car so bland it might as well be the vehicle equivalent of flour, and drive out to the location Uraraka's snitches mentioned. A post box situated in the most southeastern part of the city. It fits the perp's MO, and Izuku can feel the familiar tingling of excitement he gets whenever he's a step closer to solving a case. They secure the camera required for the stakeout inside the dashboard, then decide to grab some street meat before diving into their post, where they stay guarded a few paces away from the alleged hotspot. They sit and munch away on their meals in shared silence, eyes peeled for any suspicious activity that may occur. They sit like that for what feels like an eternity. They sit until their meals have long since been devoured. They sit until the number of people stalking the streets lessen. And they sit until eventually falls where the sun touches the tip of his fingertips onto the gray pavement, transforming the dull colors of the concrete into something that belongs in paintings. Bakugo's hands flies up to his mouth to cover an oncoming yawn. Izuku lazily peers over the man. Getting tired? I'm fine. Bakugo replies, smacking his lips slightly. His eyes remain sharp as he returns his observation on the hotspot. Izuku is astonished by the man's commitment, but must admit, it's comforting to have someone who's as invested in the case as he is, even if they do butt heads regarding approach. Izuku reaches into the back seat of the car and drags out a blanket he keeps stashed there. It often got chilly past stakeouts, so he learned to come prepared. Here, it'll keep you warm in case we need to pursue someone on foot. Let's hope so. Bakugo mumbles, while draping the blanket over his shoulders. I heard that. Once more they descend into silence, twin gazes directed at the postbox just ahead of them. Another hour passes in absolute quiet, and Izuku begins to feel himself grow restless. Not from the stakeout, which he absolutely loves, but more so from the lack of conversation. Usually when his alliance strikes, he has no problem chatting with the detective he was on the assigned case with. Most of the time it's Todoroki, but sometimes it's Uraraka, or even Sergeant Ida. They're all great conversationalists, even if most people would say it's difficult to get Todoroki to string together a full sentence in their presence. Izuku understands the man doesn't speak much, nor with as much enthusiasm as others, but he does enjoy a good chat, and Izuku is always happy to partake in one with him. Uraraka herself is emblematic of a talkative, and she makes for great company during long stakeouts. It also helps that she's completely unabashed when it comes to anything they discuss, and such has led to some of the more interesting stakeout hangs in Izuku's life. The sergeant also has a knack for chat, albeit a bit strict, but it's entertaining nonetheless. Sero too can hold his own, as can Jiro, and Mineta. Even Koda, who is known to be silent as a mouse, can banter as well as the next person. Really, Izuku loves hanging out with all the detectives he works with. They all get along so well, like a weird, multi-ethnic, multi-gendered, multi-whatever family. But Bakugo isn't one of his beloved family members. He's a stranger, an outsider, a pro-hero, and unvoiced enemy to the precinct. Izuku has no idea how to get a conversation going with the man. He doesn't exactly seem like the chatting type, but more like the type to sit in silence and not speak for 5 hours straight. Izuku glances at the time on the dashboard. 19:07. Guess Izuku's judgment of the guy wasn't far off from the mark. Although they did briefly exchange words earlier, Izuku thinks it's a shame Bakugo doesn't speak more, because he's got a lovely voice. A deep baritone, all raw and rumble far down from his throat, almost bringing Izuku to his knees from sheer tone alone. The thought has Izuku tensing up in his seat. Where on earth did that come from? He tries to remain inconspicuous, as he quickly glances over at Bakugo. The man hasn't moved a muscle since an hour ago, his entire being concentrating solidarity on the posts ahead. Izuku stumps in his seat. Thank God. Bakugo hadn't noticed Izuku was, momentarily, lost in his own world. Not that the man could read his thoughts or anything, but when something as embarrassing as being brought to his knees by a voice alone crosses his mind, well, it's hard not to suddenly think he's blaring them aloud. Alright, I think I'm stopping it there. I think that's where we're gonna stop it at. Interesting. I know I said last chapter that, where's the romance? I'm not sensing any romance. No flirting, no attraction, no nothing. I found it. It is here. There it is. So we're starting to see it a bit. We've only seen Izuku's point of view, so it's obvious we're seeing Izuku present it first. And I don't think we're gonna, even if Bakugo's thinking these things in his head, like, I don't know, something like, oh, his freckles are cute or something like that, we're probably not gonna see any of that. I think the closest we saw was the fact that Bakugo admitted that, okay, that was kind of impressive. We're like, I admire you for, you know, sticking to your ground kind of thing. Right? Which makes sense. I feel like Bakugo would definitely be attracted to someone who sticks their ground. You know, maybe even someone who presents him with a challenge. Let's be honest. With his personality, I feel like someone who presents him a challenge and actually, a good challenge. Not just like a random, no. Like a good challenge. Like not just a, oh, I'm gonna beat you in like a second type of challenge. No, like a, okay, I actually have to work to beat your ass. Alright, okay, let's go. Right, that's someone who's confident. I feel like he'd be into nerds. Nerds are a thing. Nerds are cool. Nerds are cute. I think nerds are great. I'm a nerd. I am a nerd, and I have a nerd. Alright, nerds are great. Nerds are amazing. Nerds are attractive. Nerds! I know my type. Alright? And I mean it. Nerds. D&D nerds. Gamer nerds. Nerd. Sorry, but if someone's passionately talking to me about something that they passionately love, and it's like a nerdy thing, like a book or a game or D&D or something like that, okay, I get it. I see you, right? You know, I have a type, and I'm not afraid to admit it. But, moving on. I definitely think Baku would probably be into someone who's confident or stands their ground, you know, stuff like that. So that's the only sign we see from Bakugo, but from Izuku, that voice thing. Izuku, I see you. I see what you're thinking. And it also makes sense why he would freak out like, oh, shit, did I say that out loud? You know, because I think a lot of fanfictions, sorry, I'm eating as I'm saying this. I'm eating peanuts. A lot of fanfictions, do that, where Izuku's thinking something out loud, and if he thinks hard enough, he starts thinking it out loud. He's thinking something, and then if he starts thinking a lot, he starts saying it out loud, which is a really interesting take. I really like it, and I always love it because it insinuates the fact that he has so much on his mind that it just comes out. But yeah, as always, my rain drops. Make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Links to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.